Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to replay. Always appreciate all the live listeners or everyone that listens in the replay. Everyone that's been listening for years, or even if this is your first episode ever listening. This episode is going to be I episode 207. Am I too young for a trust? And so, just really excited about doing this episode. Been wanting to do this episode for a while. Just a lot of questions throughout the years. Am I too young for a trust? It's a great conversation to have. Just because so many younger people ask this question, maybe under 30. We know our audience. Quite a few people listen that are under 30. Quite a few people listen that are over 30. So just to share, we've had people as low as maybe 21 enroll in trustee training. We actually just enrolled recently a 22-year-old inside of trustee training, someone that has dropped out of school. And it's always good to point out, relatability purposes is someone that has dropped out of school. Obviously, has put in efforts and work towards is trading successfully as a young person, once again, 22 years old, able to build businesses, very versed in how to start a corporation, very versed in how to literally focus on business, not personal. So when we hear the question, "Am I too young for a trust?" For the most part, you get a lot of people that are going to ask that question that traditionally are under 35, people that are under 50, people that don't feel as though asset protection is the first thing for the key to wealth. They don't understand how to minimize tax liability or business liability as far as even being able to be sued out of assets. So that question of do you or should you protect an asset? You get that question a lot, but the question is always caveated. Am I too young? When do you need to do this? We get people that are in their 40s that are still scared, that still are apprehensive towards moving forward towards that. And so this episode is to really address some of those myths, some of those things that people just don't understand. So, am I too young? You ask the mentors, you ask the vault. No, you're not too young. And the reason why is because trusteeship is a mindset. So trusteeship is taught to children as early as 7, 8, 9 years old. 10 years old all the way up to 13 are great grooming periods for families where we see this across the board with high net worth families or families that are focused on actual legacy or wealth building is their children are actively engaged in the wealth building process. So the question could be more, well, when's the first time you touch money? Because the first time you touch money, ever in your life, you became a fiduciary. You became a steward of money. And so obviously trusteeship is literally just a fiduciary position. It is a position of trusteeship. And so am I too young for a trust? Never. We'll give you examples in this particular episode where how are you too young for a trust when there are people that are insured or put their pet inside of a trust. So when they die, their pet is able to still maintain the pet's standard of living. There's a trust, there may be a butler, there may be a caretaker, but someone has set up an account, a trust fund, quote unquote, and they are looking to take care of their pet. So how is a human, somebody that would literally live in different jurisdictions, particularly commercial or not, and not have a fund protecting them, not have a fund that they are growing. So you the earliest is early elementary school, going on family trips, wanting to do lemonade stands. We literally saw an entrepreneur the other day say that their child literally went out after they had a family meeting because they're looking to purchase a new house, and their children were very active in the process of saying, "Hey, you just showed us a house. Can we get it?" And they're like, "We have to go do some things. We have to go work for some things and things of that nature." And their children said, "Okay." And they called a huddle with their children and they said, "Look, we don't want to disappoint you, but we got to go do some stuff." And so now they're going to, go out, and they had a huddle and their children literally ran out and came back in the house hours later with money. And you as the adult sometimes are sitting there saying, okay, we got to put this game plan together, we got to get this strategy. And then some child comes back and you're like, how did you get $10 in 3 hours? Like you literally went outside our house and you came back in 3 hours and you got, $10 to $12, $15. How did that happen? That happened because the child went out and sold rocks in the neighborhood. Wow, went door to door and sold rocks in the neighborhood. This is a child that's less than 12 years old. We'll give you another example of how are you too young for a trust. We had another example of a father in real estate. His son, literally, he just sees his father winning. He sees his father focusing on real estate. Real estate's booming right now, even in this moment in his history with things going on. And that family is in investing. And so the child literally is 12 years old and went out and bought a car and sold a car. Now, definitely, Trust Christian didn't do that at 12 years old. Definitely wasn't thinking about that, had any interest in that. And we all know where we are. So, how is it bad for a child to be focused on trusteeship and focused on trust when they're 12 years old and they already bought a car and sold the car and they did it actually in the same day? So how is this? Oh, those are the unbelievable stories. Those are the stories that don't get reported on the news to hold your attention for hours and make you feel miserable. It probably will make the average person feel miserable because they know that what were they doing at 12 years old? To literally have the comprehension to put together a sales agreement, to actually have a buy sell agreement, and literally sell a car. Oh, how can that be legal for a 12-year-old? Ladies and gentlemen, see, this is where job thinking versus entrepreneur trusteeship thinking. When you're in trusteeship, you get creative. You have to be creative. For a 12-year-old, that is an excellent feat. For an adult, that might be just something regular. You buy a car, you sell a car, same day. But for a child to do that, child under 18, it's important. It's how can you take that key life skill, that key decision that was made by that child. Those were independent decisions that were made. Literally bought the car, sold the car, and told the father. So am I too young for a trust? No. Am I too young for trusteeship? When children are younger, traditionally they're in a junior trustee position, where they are being trained, they are shadowing their parents. You say, well, how long is a child to be groomed? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll give you an example of some news recently where, what is that? The Detroit Lions owner died at 90 years old. And successively, in trusteeship, the daughter, which is 70 years old, stepped into that position. So when you say how long is someone to be groomed for trusteeship, or am I too young for a trust, or am I too young for trusteeship? How can you be too young for trusteeship when the grooming process is a never-ending process, and the process can lead literally in perpetuity from one generation to the next, where the football team was not passed along from one owner to another owner. It was literally passed along through family trusteeship. That's how things are done. So having family members, particularly your children, am I too young? How are you too young? When you're being trained by living your life, you're training the children by living your life. We get so many trustees that when we have our workshops, they ask this one question because everyone, traditionally, families always ask the question, can we bring our children? And we are very open arms towards people bringing their children. Why? Because it fosters community. It fosters uh, family. It's how can you say you're building a family trust and you don't have your family involved? How can you say you're doing business family for your family and you don't have your family involved? So having the families involved is very important, and particularly at a young age, it's never too young. How can it be too young when uh, people are starting businesses for their 3 year olds, their 5 year olds? These are things that happen inside of the private sector all the time. These are things that are going on behind closed doors where people are literally running their children's business years before their children ever step into what will be technically the compensated CEO position or the compensated board member position. It is a strategic position for their children. It's a strategic position for themselves. It is a no-brainer for them to train their child into ownership or consider trusteeship or business management skills, not putting them in a position where they're training them to go to school, get good grades to come out to get a job and work for another family. The training starts in childhood. So when we have the workshops, and we've had families throughout the years literally bring their family in the room, we don't really hear any crying from children. If we do, people are always respectful and step out. But we always are focused on family and family being in the environment, and that is what distinguishes the vault from other trustee training programs, because there are so many trustee training programs that don't involve a lot of family. So many trustee training programs traditionally are for what would be considered the lead of the office, the senior trustees only. Traditionally, you see only senior trustees participating in the environments of trusteeship, in trust management, and trust growth. So, am I too young for a trust? How can you be when you are being groomed to be into a position of senior trusteeship, family, estate trusteeship, being able to move with the family and help the family for their successive generation? You say, how am I too young? Or am I too young for a trust? How are you too young for the position of trusteeship as a successor? You're literally being groomed to be a successor for for a family estate. And so family has been partially forgotten in the public, whereas in the private, it is completely alive and well. We've seen this since day one, since we stepped into trusteeship. We've seen families as young as 12, 13 years old, and then we also have families in the room where their children are possibly 5, 7, 9 years old, sitting in a room, learning trusteeship, actually able to ask questions in trustee training. Why? Because it's very important to allow the children to foster their creativity, their independent self, being able to be an independent thinker, being able to think outside of the box. It is fostering experiential learning, where they feel very involved with the process. And that is why the vault has been so successful throughout the years, is because it has focused on family. Traditionally, families move in this space, trusteeship, together a lot easier when they're on the same page. So when you see the family in the room together, learn at the same time, or on the phone, learn at the same time, or taking actions, family retreats, all those things together, you really see growth that cannot be matched, because their growth is a singular focus, a focus on growth. And so, in turn, the family is coming up with alternative solutions. You have multiple minds that are coming up with these solutions. Children are very creative in their thought process, especially if they've been free to allow to explore their creativity. So having children sit in as successor trustees and offer up a suggestion is critical, because then they learn that their opinion is worthwhile. They learn that their opinion is something that's valued in the family. It fosters management skills, where they learn that they have a role inside of trusteeship, whether it's successor position, whether it's junior position. They learn that the position is a responsibility, and so they learn responsibility very young as a child. A lot of people were given responsibility for their family to do chores, cleaning their house. Uh, some families that we dealt with, their children have never cleaned the house. There are some children that their children have never washed dishes before the age of 12 years old. We have seen the gambit of what being young and not giving responsibility looks like. And so trusteeship obviously gives a child that responsibility, not just for themselves to develop internal self, but to actually develop responsibility within the family, to know that they have a role within the family. And so, as you all can see, that if the children are involved, of course the parents are involved. So, am I too young for a trust? Never. Oh, well, you talked about it from the position of being a successor trustee or a junior trustee, but what happens when you're talking to your child? Well, we've had a lot of families come and go, and they'll say, "Well, my children didn't get involved then, but they're ready to go now," or their children were interested in that, they picked up on it, and since their children have picked up on trusteeship, they have better conversations. Now the parents can have more free flowing conversations about their future, about their goals, because that is the way to go. So let's get to it now from an independent self where someone says, I'm under 40, I'm under 50, I'm under 65. And so in turn, what is this asset protection generational wealth building tool going to do for me? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just mentioned to you we had a 22-year-old that enrolled in trustee training. We've had people enroll in trustee training for years. We could go as low as, we don't want to say 18, but we know our youngest for sure on record is 21 years old. And so these are people that understand, own nothing, control everything. They can see that they have a vested stake and an interest in something, and in turn, they don't want to lose it. And not only do they say, okay, we're not going to lose it. They actually move, and they move with their bank account. They move where they put their money where their mouth is. See, I'm not too young for a trust says, well, last time we checked, everybody that's rich has one. So why wouldn't you? Oh, well, because we don't have the money yet. So it's not about your age then. Well, I'm kind of young. We're going to end that one today. It's not about being kind of young. It's about business, not personal. See, we fell into the trap when we were younger. Just because someone was older, we thought they were supposed to be successful. We thought they were going to be more successful because they were older. How? Age has nothing to do with success. Nothing. Oh, well, they had degrees. They've been in the workforce longer. They should be more successful. No, they're not. That's not an infinite guarantee. Everyone that has a degree is more successful than people that don't. And then we see the individuals that walk in the trust. These are the college dropouts. These are the guys that can follow basic common sense information that says own nothing, control everything. Basic common sense information. 21 years old, 22 years old, 28 years old, 25 years old. So there's not a too young. And once again, when we have trustees bring their children in as young as 5, then you end whether you're a trustee at 21, 22, or 9. You're a trustee because maybe that family put that 9-year-old in junior trusteeship position. That means they may not have necessarily a full fiduciary role, but they may have a sit in the business meetings for the family role. They're sitting in and hearing the business conversations. They're hearing the acumen that you won't teach them unless they're there learning it firsthand as a senior trustee. They don't have to read it now in the minutes of the trust. They don't have to read it in your diary as the trustee. They don't have to read it there. They can see it. As a junior trustee, as a shadowing trustee, for whatever business is being done. You're not too young to whether training or not. We get so many trustees that they come through trustee training, and sometimes they learn that, wow, this is basic information. My children can learn this, right? A lot of people get starry-eyed when they see how simple it is, and they say, my children can learn it. Your children can. And what's so interesting is that all the things that'll make you the richest, maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, they're always simple. They're always simple processes. Am I too young for a trust is asking, are you too young for an education? Are you too young for learning what a contract is? And then people literally walk through their entire life and not know how to live within contracts. They may cry, they may complain, they may talk about debt. People literally know that they weren't born with a debt, but they can literally go look at the United States debt clock, the national debt clock, and say every citizen has a debt. That means every citizen has a contract on their head, on their number. Why would you not want to know about how to operate within contracts? Because you weren't trained? And that's what trustee training provides. It provides the training for junior and senior level trustees to move forward in a position of stewardship and trusteeship of the family's estate, what assets they have, big or small. Trustee training has always been that, made for people to learn it at whatever age. Simple. And we answer questions to you no matter what the age. Are you too young? No. Is somebody too young to be a fiduciary of a contract? Think about it. When was the first time you touched money? You became a trustee. God entrusted you to give you $1 out of somewhere, a penny out of somewhere. And it was our job as trustees to grow it. That's called stewardship. That's called trusteeship. But oh no, when you weren't taught contracts, then it's just, oh, it's just another dollar. Hey, how do you get dollars? Well, your job gives you $1, right? You go apply, you get it, you get money. What happened to prayer? What happened to asking the Most High, the universe, to give you a blessing and you receive it and grow it? That's trusteeship. How can you be too young for trusteeship? It's that simple. Well, what about the contract? Does the child have a paper contract? Maybe, maybe not. There are different types of contracts, implied and expressed. Some of them are verbal and some of them are written on paper. When you create a contract with your child or with someone through conversation or verbal, it's implied. And when it's written on paper, it's expressed. What happens to people writing chores for their children? You do these things, and guess what? You're going to get paid. It's a contract. Trusteeship. What happened? Trusteeship. It's trusteeship, ladies and gentlemen. Stewardship. Are you too young? This episode's for the young people. Ladies and gentlemen, once you are aware of the truth, it's your job to find it. So since it's your job to find it and you found it at a young age or old age, once you find the truth, it is to keep it and use it. No, you cannot be too young for it. Better to know it than not to know it. Better to have it than not to have it. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, we sat in front of people, gave you information, gave us information one time, never saw them again. Still to this day, remember the information because the information, after you did your research, after someone told you about it, after someone talked to you about it, what did you do? You did more research and you found out that was $1 million idea and you never let it go. And guess what? You also never heard other people talk about it. Public people, common people. You knew the truth when you heard it. And now it's time to act accordingly. Age has nothing to do with success. Age has nothing to do with trusteeship. Get rid of the notion. It will only fail any individual that says, I am too young. Youth has nothing to do with success. Age has nothing to do with it. Are you too young? No. You're right on time. You're getting the message and you're moving forward. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We're going to open it up to the chat right now. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live or listening to replay. This is episode 207, The Vault, Trust Christian, Own Nothing, Control Everything. Am I too young for a trust? We got some people on the chat live listening. We always appreciate everybody that's going to go back and listen to replay. But anybody in the chat, feel free to type in any questions you may have. And we'll move forward from there. So once again, we just appreciate everybody for tuning in live or in the replay because the focus for this one is to address a question a lot of people come with, and we can continue to go through it. Not just whether it's age, but we can go on with educational level. There are people that literally come and say, "Well, if I'm not a lawyer, how can I do it? If I'm not an entrepreneur yet, when do I need to get started?" You get started when you get started. It's a mindset. You get started when you mentally get started. See, you think you're going to walk into some type of Ferrari and you're not going to have to read the manual. Am I too young for a trust? If you're not going to read the manual, yes, you are. You got to read the manual. How are you going to get in a Ferrari and not read the manual? This all trust is. It's a Ferrari. What's a LLC? It's a Honda. Trust is a Rolls Royce. That's what you hold a Rolls Royce in, a trust. You're not going to have a $300,000 car so somebody can mark it up, scratch it up, and not have any type of insurance on it or anything of that nature. It looked at as an antique as soon as it's pulled off. It's looked at as an antique. Why? Because they'll never make that car ever again. Rolls Royce will never make that car ever again. They have that model for that year is handmade. They will never make that. That car is actually one of a few hundred or thousand cars of that version. It may be one of that year that has that paint job. Am I too young to protect my assets? Think about when you were younger. How much better off you would have been if you owned nothing, control everything. If you had the trustee mindset. That's the difference. Being able to have a mindset of growth, preservation, protection, and so much more. Think about it. Were you too young to receive a family inheritance? Are you too young for a family trust? How can you be? That's how assets are passed along through the family. That's the state. That's for hundreds of years now. The proper way to do it, hundreds of years. England, many different places have adopted the mindset of you're never too young. But because there are cultures that haven't been raised in English, they may not find out the English principles and practices. But when you're in a capitalist system that's based off of own nothing, control everything, then you can see how families are passing along wealth from one generation to the next, and you don't see them in the workforce the next generation. Are you too young to be a beneficiary? How can you be too young to be blessed? How can you be too young to be blessed? If you obviously have a trust, clearly there's an asset in it. It's property in it, something worthwhile passing along. Whether it's intellectual property, whether it's tangible property or intangible property. It's property. It's an asset. Am I too young for asset management? Oh, hold on. Is that the first time when you touch money again? The first time you touched a penny? The first time you touched a dime? The first time you touched a dollar? You were entrusted by the Most High, by the Creator of the universe, for with money. And then a person asked the question, am I too young for asset management, property management? Did your parents give you toys when you were younger? Did your parents give you property? You were an asset manager. It was an asset. It was to make you better. It's an asset. It's to grow in value. It's an asset. Am I too young for a trust? Too young for a trusteeship? Too young to be a trustee? An asset manager. Out of all things, you're an asset manager. Hold on, we're an asset manager? Hold on. So gifts, skills, and talents are assets. Right. Did you protect them? How many people get their ideas ripped off from them because they don't have simple things as non-disclosures? Young people are scared to put a non-disclosure in place with the bank. Would put a non-disclosure in place with their accountant. Put a non-disclosure in place with their lawyer. First of all, that's how all business is done. Why? You would know that if you were in trust. Why? Because everything's based off a contract. How can I trust you if you're not willing to sign a contract that says you're going to protect our privacy? So we got to make sure we have privacy agreements in place. Am I too young for a trust? Are you too young to protect your greatest assets, gifts, skills, and talents, and abilities? Think about it. Insurance is a trust contract. Are you too young for a trust? A trust is an insurance contract. An insurance contract is a trust. For all of you all to have insurance, and if you don't have insurance, you can go research what the insurance contract is created from. It's created from a contract. Am I too young for a contract? The contract that ensures your gifts, skills, talents, and abilities. It ensures your health. Hold on. The trust ensures your health because it's a contract. Am I too young still for a trust? Are you too young for a contract to protect your health for the next generation? Are you too young to say, I'm going to put a contract in place for my loved ones? How many people are literally sitting on putting a contract in place for their wife, for their husband, for their children, for their mom, for their family, anybody. When you have it in place, you have insurance to give something to your family now. It's in the correct position. How is it in the correct position if you owned it and it can be taken from you, whether you're dead or alive? And it's going to be ripped away from you easier when you're dead because you didn't have it in the correct position in the first place. These are the conversations that we heard in trustee training at the vault as we moved throughout the ranks throughout the years. And still to this day, people get consultations as, am I too young? Are you too young to protect your greatest asset? The thing between your ears, the brain. Ensuring your greatest asset in the proper capacity. So you're not only protecting, you're preserving, and then you're focused on growing it because you're going to keep developing your talent and ability. See, this falls in line. It's not a one color, one race, one age, one degree. It's not about any of that. It's about a mindset. And you can learn that mindset. Hey, think about it. If you did learn it at 13, 12, or 9, or 5, or however early you learned it, how much better off a person will be, an individual will be. How much further would they be better off? They'll be better off, all right. They'll be better off. Because now they have the opportunity to seek more. As people would have young people to believe, oh, you have a lot of time. So you think you can wait for it as a young person. Oh, we're 21, 22, 18. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had 22-year-olds get in. Why? Because they take their financial life seriously. These people have every intention of building companies and literally own nothing, control everything, and literally have tons of wealth and live their lives in their dreams. Period. That's their intentions. What are yours? Am I too young for a trust? You can't be too young if you have intentions of growing assets, protecting assets, preserving assets, passing along assets in the proper position. So no, you're not too young. It's maybe sad that some people, they just will never get the fact that that's how it's done. So they wait and they wait and they wait. What are you waiting for? You already know the truth. You know what's going to give you the protection. You know what's going to help you preserve. You know what's going to help you grow in the proper capacity. But you also know the alternatives for what's offered in the public, traditional, LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, LLPs, LTDs. These are contracts. Oh no. See, the average individual only knows about those first three. LLC, S Corp, C Corp. What happened to GPs? Did you not know that, or do people not know that general partnerships is just simply a contract? What about an LP, a limited partnership? That's a contract? Oh, I'm not too young for a contract. No, you're not. You've never been too young. And that's why we've had trustees enroll at a very young age. And they had to take the responsibility that their family's not taking, which is creating a family trust, creating unity, creating something to say, when we die, our legacy will live on. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always thank everybody for doing that. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. If not, we'll hear from you, Christian at Trust Christian. We have trustees that had jobs before they got in trustee training. And because of what we're even doing today, on June 28, 2020, doing the trading webinar, people literally doing that a year ago. We just started that up. The vault's been going on for years. We've known our trading partners for years. We started up the webinars last year. People literally are walking away from their jobs because they have a skill. Remember, they have the talents and abilities, but they got into trustee training so they could protect their talents and their abilities. The brain. They got talents and abilities. They can comprehend basic arithmetic or being able to identify patterns more than anything. The market just repeats itself. It goes up and it goes down. It doesn't go straight up and it doesn't go straight down. Simple. And that's why young people get trading. Young people want the freedom. They want the flexibility. They don't want to work a job where 9 to 5s literally have been terminated, where traffic was people's lives every single day for 5 days, maybe more. Traffic. They knew what rush hour traffic was better than many things in their life. Traffic. And now it comes to trusteeship. And people say, well, when should I get started? You're willing to sit in traffic for the rest of your life? Hold on. What about trading? When should I start? So you're willing to go sit in traffic. If you're not willing to do that, the trading webinar may be for you. Christian at trustchristian.com. We'll email you over or forward you over to Cornell, our trading webinar coach. He's pretty much just a trustee that came to the vault before trading and just now is focused on trading from the proper position and trusteeship and focused as a trustee growing, because whether you know it or not, even the banks that you're dealing with, they're in trust. They're a trust contract. And the traders that are trading at the bank, that are trading your money and your safety deposit box, say your CDs, and the people that are trading your money on the market for your savings account to help you get the measly 0.001 interest. Literally, someone is trading from a trust account and giving you 0.00 interest at the bank. How do they give you a return? Off of osmosis? No. The bank has an asset manager growing the assets. Now, if you think the bank is going under, we encourage you all at the vault to go look at the interviews with Congress and the bank CEOs recently, right after the 2008 debacle. They did an interview with them after 2008, after the so-called housing crisis, which literally, if the housing crisis was based off of mortgages, that means banks were holding them. Well, they did interviews with the CEOs, and they wanted to know, well, why CEOs is it that you guys are receiving $100 million bonuses, $200 million bonuses, $40 million bonuses still? And this is how you maneuver in trusteeship, because you're not too young for trust. What did they say? They said, I'm not in control of that. The board of trustees is. The board is. Just that simple. They're not in control of their bonuses. The contract is. The trustees that are managing it are in control of each individual's salary. Yep. Are you too young to take on that level of responsibility for your life as a trustee? For some, but not for everybody. And so we speak to the ones that it's not for. The ones that say, I can hear the truth and I'm ready to move. Look, if you're young and you want to get up on trusteeship, listen to the episodes on the vault. As far as all the episodes, and then if you want to get a consultation, move forward. If not, then you keep moving forward. That's all it's about. You're never too young to know the laws that are going to be imposed upon you. The laws, not just spiritual laws, but worldly laws. You're confounded to spiritual laws. It's called gravity. That's a spiritual law. You don't need to see it, but you know if you walk off a building that's pretty high, what's going to happen? It's a spiritual law. So, contract makes the law. Trust is a contract. So why would I not need to know that? I need to know the worldly laws. The ones that say if you eat poison, you're going to die. See, that's a law. A law of nature, whether you want to believe it or not. So am I too young for the truth as a trustee and actually implementing the strategy, the lifestyle? Or are you too young for that? You're never too young to be in control of your life. You want to know how the United States honors contracts in specific when you're not too young? There are many examples, whether it is one of our favorites, Andrew Carnegie, youngster. We can go to many different entrepreneurs throughout history that started businesses when they were young, that moved out of their parents' house when they were young, that their parents left them when they were young, and they had to stand on their own 2 feet in contracts. Because that's what it's always been about. So they have the emancipation letters. The emancipation letters are contracts between the original caretaker for property, and now that property can actually speak for itself. That property, that dependent, can say, hey, you know what? We can manage this property now. What property is that? Once again, your skills, your talents, your abilities. How do you do that properly? You have to put people on notice. The emancipation for a child is that way. That's one. How do you do that as an adult? You get into the proper capacity, trusteeship, own nothing, control everything. How can you own something you never created? You own a house? Think about how many people are lying to themselves when they say they own a house. How can you own a house and you got a mortgage on it? So you lie to your children, you lie to your friends, you lie to your neighbors. How? You don't own it. You want to know why people say that they own houses, that they own the cars, that they have contracts on? Because they don't know how to operate properly in contracts. Own nothing, control everything. You can never be too young to be properly educated, ladies and gentlemen, but you can definitely be too old to be stupid and ignorant of the laws that are going to be imposed upon you, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. So they're imposed upon you and you don't even know it, but you got to learn it. And that's a great thing. We appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Didn't see any questions come in. Christian at trustchristian.com. We're looking forward to all the trustees, everybody that's inquired about the trading webinar that we have coming up today. I think it starts at 4 or 5 p.m. You all will definitely be getting emails if you haven't. Cornell, definitely, obviously, there are people that listen to this episode, so they're gonna get on that webinar, and they're gonna do some last minute payments and things like that. People are gonna be on that webinar perfectly fine. Cornell will take care of you. Please don't panic. This is a resource from the vault. We've had people come to the vault throughout years and literally disrespect our resources. You cannot do that, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't want to hear it, then don't stay on the vault. But there is no disrespect to the resources. If you are emailing the vault and looking to get in contact with the trading webinar and as well be on the trading webinar, do your part. Do as much as you can before 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Obviously, that's earlier for West Coast. But do what you got to do. And as well, the emails will be answered. And if not, there is a caring in business on our side. There is no just disdain for whatever amount of money it is. It's valuable. You want to learn it. We want to make sure you got it. The vault's not asking for it. It's a donation to a trustee's foundation. That's what it is. It's a tax write-off. Your financial education is a tax write-off. Oh, we're sorry. You got ripped off from America and you're in student loan debt and you're not getting any money residually from it. Somebody's doing something out of their heart for some children, for a basketball team, because that's what Cornell does it for. The foundation, he has sponsors, girls basketball teams, and so it's a blessing to have people further themselves and then help young kids continue to further themselves. What's so crazy is a lot of the kids that he sponsors on those teams actually are really good at basketball, and then they end up getting scholarships. So he's funding their teams, and in turn, these girls are getting exposure, and in turn, these girls are actually getting academic scholarships as well as athletic scholarships to go and play at the post-secondary level. So a very beautiful thing. So how can you be too young for trusteeship? You think if he's giving them scholarships, or you think if he's sponsoring a girl basketball team, you think the guy that's the trustee is not talking about it? See, we're the African indigenous descent men that don't mind talking about it. The rest of the guys, they don't want to talk about it because they're competitive. We're creators. It was sitting here, we'll drop this before we leave. Can you be too young for trusteeship? Can you be too young for a trust? There was a rapper recently named Nipsey Hussle, and Cornell was bothering us for weeks about listening to their last album called Victory Lap. Because literally inside of a song called Rap Ends, we don't want to use that term to promote it. But rap ends, it could be looked at as a derogatory term. Traditionally, in the African American, African indigenous descent communities, looked at as a derogatory term. Ends. People know what that word means if you're in the community. If you're not, you'll figure it out maybe one day. But the ends. So there's a song called Rap Ends, and in the song, this is someone that people will call a degenerate. This is someone that people say, well, why are you wearing all those gold chains around your neck? Well, why are you riding around in Ferraris? Well, why are you rapping about bad things that have happened in your life? Okay, this is the same individual that in that song says he has trust accounts, $1 million life insurance on his life. See, inside of the African indigenous descent community, they practice griot. They practice passing messages in a rhythmic form. So the rhythmic form was rap. And so for people that were listening to that medium of exchange, that medium of passing along information, literally, rap ends promoted what? Trust and insurance. Period. So where people that were fans now can move into a position of knowing, a position of trusteeship, of knowledge. Wow, one of my favorite rappers, one of the guys I looked up to, he actually talked about this in his music. The music that was supposedly bad for the community has now been looked at to uplift the community or people around him because he's exposing them. Well, how do you think you can pass along assets like he did? He passed along money to his children through life insurance. So even though he was slaughtered, he still put things in place. He wasn't too young, and he was definitely too young to die. He was less than 40 years old, less than 35 years old. But he had it in place. The trust and and the insurance. And people ask, can you be too young? These are just examples, ladies and gentlemen. That is what the vault provides, is the education that you need to move forward in trusteeship, because you're never too young. Appreciate you for tuning in live. Looking forward to hearing and seeing you all on the trading webinar. Christian@trustchristian.com. If you want to get forward over to the trading webinar, look forward to hearing from you. Peace and blessings. Enjoy your day. Talk to you.